What you are about to hear is highly classified. In episode number 156 of Zone 4, we are joined by Ken Minter to talk about his new book, Tales of the Emerald Yeti, his convention appearances, and so much more. We also talk about some headlines, we get some updates from Gordon's Chickstick Time Lords event, his new project, and much more, Ghost Rider 2 review, and so much more in this chock-full episode. Don't forget to check out the weekly Zone 4 webcomic strip at zone4podcast.com/webcomic, updating every Monday. We're getting very near to the end. We, of course, give more shout-outs to our faithful Zone 4 Legionnaires. We're up to 290. Like us on Facebook.com/Zone4Podcast. You'll get a shout-out on the show. As I mentioned earlier, our guest this week is Ken Minter. KenMinter.com. You can learn more about him. Also, notfromherecomic.blogspot.com to learn more about his works. His comics appear on Comic Related every Friday. Check him out. And now enjoy this clip from the show, and I'll be back with you in a second.
Well, I grew up, my family, there's 6 kids in my family, and it's 5 boys, 1 girl. And I'm one of the youngest ones. So I had a bunch of older brothers growing up, and there were always comic books in the house. And so I keyed into that kind of stuff very early on. So I remember I used to have my older brothers draw me pictures of Spider-Man all the time, and I grew up watching that old 1960s Spider-Man cartoon when it was in reruns. So I keyed into comics at a very early age and just stuck with it.
I got to ask you, because again, this is a fun question to do with comic creators, okay? Because I think like 9/10 time out of 100, they have the answer to this. So here's the question for you: do you remember the first comic book you ever read?
Yeah, I do. The first comic that really, I think it was an issue, DC Comics back in the early 70s, they had it was kind of marketed as like a horror humor comic, and it was called Plop.
Yes.
P-L-O-P.
Yes.
And Sergio Aragonés did a lot of stuff in that, and they occasionally had Basil Wolverton covers. But I remember that I think Plop was the first comic that I remember looking through.
All right, too cool. Okay, so I mean, you talk about having all the comics, in the house when you're growing up with your brothers and such, and even to the point of remembering that oddball comic book. When did you first did you start making your own comics as a kid? When did you first get the urge to say, "Hey, I can do this kind of stuff"?
And if you'd like to hear the rest of the show, tune in later today via comicrelated.com, zone4podcast.com, on our Facebook page for the entire episode. This episode is sponsored by the Lexington Comic-Con, coming to Lexington, Kentucky, March 24th. You can learn more at lexingtoncomiccon.com. Comic Related will be set up at the show, so come by and say hi if you get a chance to hit the show. We are also proud to be supporters of suicide prevention until the end of April. We were pointed towards this cause by the Better in the Dark podcast, so if you can, please donate at the link. As always, follow us on zone4podcast.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us a review on there. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, etc. You can find all those links on zone4podcast.com. And of course, thanks for listening.